Welcome to CUTV Newsbriefs. I'm Zoltan Somoro. Our main story today comes from Parliament Hill. Naomi Szeben attended the protest that took place last Wednesday, and we have her today with us in studio. Hi Naomi, how's it going?
Well, it's going great.
Good.
Well, I would like to say that November 16th, 1994 was quite the historical moment. That was the biggest student rally ever in Canada. It was, if you can try to imagine, 4 buses, all of them aligned from Mackay to Bishop, all on the de Maisonneuve entrance and from the Hall building, all of them carrying students that were willing and raring to go. Now that was something.
Who organized this, by the way?
This was organized by, originally it was organized by the Ottawa Students Association. They had brought a whole bunch of people together to organize sound, to organize bands to be there, to organize enough security, of course, first aid if it would be necessary. And the response was massive. Concordia's student union was contacted, brought in, and people came around.
So you say that there were also bands there. Which bands were those? When did that take place?
Well, the actual band started around 11 o'clock. We had left Montreal around 9, so we came there a bit late. Among the bands were Brass Camarade, and it was interesting to note that those bands were not paid. Every single one of those bands came in as a volunteer to protest along with them in their own way. Obviously, they were not a part of the rooting, tooting students out there screaming in the ground, but there was quite a mood out there.
So you say that there was quite a mood. We've heard that it got rather messy at some point during the rally.
Well, yes, messy would be quite a good way to put it. If you try to picture over 10,000 students packed onto the field right before the Parliament Hill, that was an ocean of people. It was essentially the whole idea of the rally was to wait for the Minister of Human Resources, Minister Axworthy himself, to come forth and to speak to the students. Now, the unusual thing about this rally was that by the time that Mr. Axworthy came out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, these students had heard tons of speeches, tons of slogans, and they were riled up. They were absolutely fired up and angry. And for all the money in the world, I would not have wanted to be Mr. Axworthy. I think he showed a certain amount of bravery to face an ocean of people standing there and screaming, not necessarily listening to what he'd said, but they were definitely in tune with what was going on. I had spoken to several students. And
what did they have to say?
Well, one of the things they'd said was that they were insulted by what Mr. Axworthy said. He was on stage, and he had said, if you don't want to listen, well, that's fine, but he was essentially suggesting that the students had not read the Green Book. The Green Book is, of course, the policy that states that tuition fees could be raised by $8,000. That's why everyone was out at the protest. Now, when students heard this, they became angry. They were absolutely livid. Beforehand, the students, all 10,000 and plus, were all out there and somewhat dispersed on the field. But the moment Axworthy came up, the crowd of people rushed forwards towards the stage where he was standing. Now, our crew consists of a total of a whopping number of 3 people: myself, Nikki Mitsalis, who was camera person at the time, and of course Robin Lamond, who was our roadie, I suppose. He carried our equipment. Nikki was up on the sound stage, and the stage was set up in such a way that it was just in front of the stage that Axworthy spoke. So you got a sort of an idea of where the people were as well, and the rest of the people were right behind us. The moment Axworthy suggested that students should read it before protesting, then the students were livid, absolutely livid. They may have been angry before, but there was rage the moment he uttered that, and the students just rushed forward. At least I honestly believe that some of the students would physically climb up onto the stage, despite the fact that there was RCMP attendance there, and probably try to throttle Mr. Axworthy himself, but it was remarkable. The crowds came forth.
So for once, students actually got involved with some issue that concerned them.
Yes, it's highly ironic when you think that this is Generation X. We're labeled as being apathetic, we're labeled as being uncaring, and here you have it.
But then again, we're also being labeled as Generation X.
Well, Generation Axworthy.
Okay, thank you, Naomi, very much.
Oh, thank you. Hi, this is Naomi Szeben again. We're speaking to you right now from the Fairview Mall. The reason that we're standing here is that all the buses that you see around and behind me are really the Armada, as what Marika Giles, the CSU president, had stated. They're all meeting here. This is the meeting place for all the buses. They're leaving on the direction to Ottawa. November the 16th is one of the most important dates in Canadian student history. 10,000 students from around Canada have been voluntarily shipped out and are coming around to Ottawa to protest this. If you can imagine 10,000 students coming from around Canada to head out towards the direction, you could get the idea of just how important this is to not just students, but to history in general. We have a view of students that are going out to protest. Several hundred buses from Concordia, McGill, and different CEGEPs are all heading out. And we'll have a few words with Marika Giles. What's your impression about all the buses and all the people standing here?
I think it looks really good. It looks like it's going to be a busy day, so that's good. And the fact that we've got CEGEP students out and other university students out, I think we're really going to have an impact today.
What's your name?
Nadine Jourdain.
Okay, and you're reporting with the Concordian, is that right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What made you decide that you wanted to cover the story on the Axworthy prom?
Well, because it's something that's going to affect all students all across the country, especially CEGEP students that are coming up to Concordia, university level. And it will eventually affect the high school students and the CEGEP tuition fees as well. So it is important to all students.
How many people do you think will be coming around to this rally?
Well, I spoke to the Federation of Students yesterday, and they were expecting last week 10,000 students, and they upped the figure to 20,000.
Do you have any idea which universities are coming around, or which stations?
Queen's is going to be there, University of Moncton all the way from New Brunswick is going to be there. I think University of Fredericton might be there. Dawson College is going to be there. UQAM, Université de Montréal, all the French universities are going to be there. I'm not sure if there are going to be any coming from out west, but I know there may be. I think there was a confirmation from Manitoba.
I'm the school's head athletic therapist.
Okay, I'm just going to ask, have you noticed any enthusiasm or anything different happening over the course of the week while you were actually here?
Enthusiasm, haven't seen much of it. As far as changes go, you look around, you'd say it's kind of like a ghost town on campus. Last night in our gyms we had about 2,000 people sleeping on the floor. Canceled most of the practices, and they just took the place over.
Who were the students that had slept on the floor? Where were they from?
They came from all over. One of the parking lots beside our arena is just full of highway coaches right now. There must be 25, 35 of them parked there, and those are the students that slept in our gyms last night, as well as Carleton's, and Algonquin College, I believe, was involved too.
When did you find out about this?
Just this morning.
Wow. What was your reaction when you found out about those students?
All the power to them.
And I want to say that I appreciate the organizers of this meeting for accepting our offer to come here and give you another point of view. I always assume that students, particularly those in the universities and colleges, are interested in a serious debate. And that's what we're here to do, is to talk about how we can develop in this country a much better system of higher education. That's what the debate's all about. Let me say first, well, you know, I think the one thing about higher education is to at least be prepared to listen to the other point of view. There's always two points of view to every case, and I think it's important that you be at least prepared to listen. Maybe that's the first step in a good education, is to have a serious debate. Because I'll tell you, right across this country, Canadians are debating how we can meet new conditions, how we can improve education.
What do you think of Axworthy's speech?
His speech?
Who could hear it?
Yeah, who could hear it? It was just more Axworthy rhetoric and crap. He said nothing. Basically, he insulted us. He said, obviously, you haven't read the material. The problem is we have read it, and he hasn't answered any questions in it. So.
You shouldn't, I mean, what contempt to treat your constituents with? It's not my problem, it's yours, right? And that's not the way, I mean, a government is supposed to govern, I don't think, at least in Canada, right?
No, and then the biggest joke was Jean Charest coming up later, just, you know, riding on the coattails of Axworthy.
The Tories saving the day.
Yeah, really.
After they destroyed the country.
All but all of them, you know, there are only
too many. Oh well.
One of them.
Do you feel that this rally had accomplished the goals set for Concordia?
The goal set for Concordia. Well, in an issue like this, it's not just goals set for Concordia. It's a national story. It's a national problem. So we accomplished what we set out to. It was to show solidarity with all Canadian students. We're all going to be facing tremendous problems if this document becomes policy.
And what are students doing now that the protest is over?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Lana Grimes had been one of the organizers in forming a petition to send out to all Concordia students regarding this protest. I'd like to add that this protest did not include just Concordia.
So obviously, who else was there, do you know?
Well, yes, there were different CEGEPs, colleges within around Quebec and around Ontario. There were also several universities from Western Ontario that had come around to protest this. This was especially important to realize that they had further traveling time than the Montreal to Ottawa distance. That's just 2 hours. There were people camping out overnight in Ottawa to state their claim.
Really? Do you have an idea how many people did that?
Yeah, 2,000 people had camped out in the gym. It's particularly interesting from the clip that most people didn't even realize it until the very day they wake up. Ooh, there's 2,000 people in the gym. It's very surprising.
Very interesting. There was also an issue, apparently Axworthy got a taste of eggs and tomatoes and...
It was not a sandwich, no.
Okay.
We had several different people throwing up pieces of garbage, eggs, tomatoes, apples, and I'd like to add that this was not Concordia students, not that we're going to say who it was. However, it was very surprising to find that people did not show the grace that was necessary to put forth a protest. And Axworthy was riled, Charest was riled, everyone was riled.
In other news, last Wednesday, the university announced the closure of Langley Hall residence by June 1st, 1995. Langley Hall presently accommodates 104 residents. A study by the university earlier this year indicated expensive renovations of the building were needed. The university also says that the residence is expensive to maintain and that the operation of the residence has consistently been losing money. Langley Hall residents will be getting help from the university to find appropriate accommodations. And in this week's Concordia announcements, Divided We Stand is a play by Pan Bouyakas, which is going to be playing at the Strathern Cultural Center. This will be playing from November 23rd to December 11th, 1994. For more information about this play, you can call 848-0238. And for this week's contest, the question of the week was, who is the editor of CUTV Newsbriefs? The correct answer would be Naomi Szeben. Now to see who's the lucky winner. Now technically this could be correct, however the last name is missing, so we shall draw another name. And the answer is correct, Naomi Szeben. The winner of this week is Constantine. So Constantine, stop by the offices here in the Hall building on the 6th floor to get your prize. And the question for next week shall be, who is the floor manager for CUTV Newsbriefs? And for all of us here at CUTV Newsbriefs, have a great week.